Hi guys, hello. We are live for the Wayward, and that is upside down, for the Wayward book club discussion. So I will give us a minute for people to arrive. If you're here, say hi so I know my chat is working, and we'll get started in just a minute. Ow, my tea is still very hot. I overboiled the water because I don't like it when it gets cold too quickly. Oh, good, Spencer. I'm glad you made it. I was wondering if I should message you. I almost messaged you and was like, don't forget. So we'll get started. We'll wait one more minute and see if anyone else arrives, and then we'll get chatting about our thoughts about Wayward. I'm hoping that we get a decent group today because I'm still not sure how I feel about this book. Initially, my gut reaction to it was 4, somewhere between a 4 and 4.5, but I'm still thinking about it. And I'm hoping that you guys will help me work out my thoughts a bit here, because I don't know why, but something about this book didn't work for me. There's something missing, and I don't know what it was. I mean, there is something I didn't love, but I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. So that's why I like to read the book right before the live show, because if I read it too far in advance, I'll start forgetting things. And I want it to be fresh in my mind, but also it helps me talk it out, figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like. So why don't we go ahead? Oh, Lauren, you loved all of it. I'm glad you did. I saw a lot of people loved this book, and I went in really not knowing what I was getting into. I knew that there was some kind of witchy element to it. I thought it was about witches, and it is, but also not really. And I don't know. I think I wanted more from the witch stuff. It kind of it did a thing that often annoys me, where it kind of doesn't want to go all the way. So it kind of straddles the line of I want more magic. If you're going to set me up with witches and nature magic, I want to go all in. I want to know how it works. I want to understand it better. And I feel like we didn't really get enough. Yes, commit to it. If you're going to do it, do it. One of my biggest pet peeves, and why I don't read a lot of thrillers, is because so often they set you up to think you're going into a supernatural direction. And then it's just kidding. It's just humans being humans. And I'm like, no, let it be magic. Let it be ghosts. Let it be the thing you're setting it up to be. So that was definitely I couldn't quite go all the way to 5 stars because of that. And I liked it though. There was a lot of things that I really enjoyed. Let's get more into specifics. So I wrote down a few notes. It's definitely less witchy than I expected. I really wanted it to live up to this gorgeous cover, and it almost did. I still love the cover. Even if I hated this book, I think I would keep it because it's so pretty. I don't know. But I didn't hate it. I did like it. I want to rank the 3 perspectives, because for me, when I'm reading a book with multiple perspectives, I usually like some more than others, and that was definitely true in this book. So Altha was my favorite perspective. I feel like she was the witchiest, and she had better understanding, I think, of how all of this worked, because she's the only one who grew up with a mother who understood the magic. So I feel like she was the best perspective in just the time period is also one that I really like. So that right away was better for me, but also I feel like her voice was just better. Yes, Spencer says she felt the most authentic. Yes. Then I liked Violet, although I found parts of her story a little annoying. But I have to let that be part of the time period. But I just didn't like how naive she was. It's not like she was raised by men. She had a nursemaid. So why is she so ignorant about everything? She didn't understand her own body. She didn't understand what sex was, pregnancy, none of that. And I kind of felt like it was weird that like no one told her this. I don't know. And especially since she reads so much science and nature, she should have understood more. Like, if you're going to be reading science, and didn't she say she stole a biology text? Why did she not know what menses was? Like, that bothered me. So, like, how do you not know this? I don't know. That kind of grated on me a little bit, but I enjoy when a character is learning more about like where they came from, who their parents are, that sort of thing. So that kind of saved it for me. And the stuff about her like finding out who her mother was, I wish we could have gotten more about her mom because she was interesting. And I felt like we could have, why didn't we get that story? I wanted Elizabeth's storyline more than I wanted Violet's. I don't know. To me, one was way more interesting than the other. And I don't know. And then I did not like Kate's story because her storyline felt very much like a domestic thriller, which is not a thing that I enjoy. And I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy that. I did like seeing her come into her power, but the rest of it was kind of frustrating to read. And I every time it got to a Kate chapter, I was just like, hurry up and get through it so I can get to a better story. So like Kate's really pulled it down for me, but I still like, I want to give this like a 4. I might go change my rating because Goodreads doesn't let you do half stars. So I ended up giving it a 5 because like I couldn't decide between 4 and 4.5, but I think I'm going to pull it down to a 4. But yeah, I wish you could have gotten more about how the magic worked and less of Kate. Like, I don't know. But I did like the writing. The writing was gorgeous. And also I realized like that this was a debut. I somehow didn't realize that until I was like reading the book. And yes, Spikes and Drew are very noisy today. I'm hoping that they can at least behave. They've been a lot the last few days. But let's see, what did I like? I liked the writing. I liked the way the story flowed worked really well for me. Like, some people don't like when things jump around a lot, but for me that worked. Like getting the reveals at the end and like the way we hopped around, I don't know, to me it worked and it made sense. Oh, Lauren says I liked all 3 perspectives, but Altha was my favorite. Yeah, she was great. I don't know. I would read an entire book just about Altha. Yes, Spencer. I thought about you when there was the crow. Always the crow. And I thought that was great. Yeah, I really liked seeing I really liked the way the nature was written into the story. I am one of those people who I love nature. I love reading about nature. I love the idea of being outside and in a garden and like in the woods, but I am not an outdoor person. So like, I like to read about it. I like to read about other people doing it. So that aspect of the story was probably my favorite. Like, I just really enjoy the atmosphere and the setting. I really liked that. I love stories set in England. I want to go there. I want to like immerse myself in the wilds of the countryside and live in the moors and that kind of thing. So like that worked really well for me. I also really liked the idea of this cottage being there for all of the wayward women. And like, that's really cool. Like, I can't even conceive of a building that could last that long. So that was really cool that this little cottage was there and that like all the wayward women left something in it of some sort. Unisha says, I usually don't mind multi-POVs, but I think I would have preferred in this book to read each story in 3 individual parts. Oh, so you mean like an Alpha, like part 1 would be Alpha's story, then part 2 would be Violet, and part 3 would, I can see that. But like I said, I think it flowed well for me, but I understand, like, not everybody likes that kind of storytelling. So I don't know, but I enjoyed that. And I liked the reveals and all of that. What else did I have written down here? I did not know what this was. Like I said, I went into this book relatively I didn't even really read too much into the synopsis. And I didn't know what this story was beyond that it was some kind of nature magic and witches, and that there was like 3 perspectives in different time periods. I didn't know we were going to get a story about girls dealing with dead mothers for like the majority of it, and sort of lots of stuff about awful men. I didn't know that that's what this was going to be. Some of that worked for me. Like I said, I enjoy stories where a character is like learning about their parents, learning about their past and where they came from. And so some of that worked really well. Some of the awful men stuff felt like too much. Another pet peeve I have is when a story goes overboard into that and like hammers you over the head with it. And I don't think this book quite went that far with it. I've read books that did, and I didn't enjoy it. So I liked that this was a little more balanced. And let's see, what else did I write down? Nope, I think I hit all of the notes I wrote down. Yeah, Spencer, like they do that. There have been books that have just been like too much of that, where it was just like, I get it. You don't need to tell me over and over and over. So like, I felt like this was a lot more balanced though. And I appreciate that a lot, which is again, why I'm like leaning more towards like a 4-star, because it's hard to, it must be hard to do that, because so many of the books that I've read that are like feminist and about like men being awful are like too over the top with it. So I appreciated that a lot. I found some discussion questions that I thought we could work through. There's a lot of them, so I'm not going to do all of them. Let's see. This one says, oh, you gave it a 4.5. Yeah, I do appreciate that about Storygraph, that you can do half stars, quarter stars, 3/4 stars. Like, that's nice. I don't understand why Goodreads can't get it together. Like, let this be a thing. I don't know anyone who rates only on a solid scale. Like, I always do like, well, that was a 2.5, or that was a 3.5, but like, this was a 4.25. Like, doesn't everybody? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, so first question we'll do, it says, the Wayward women in the novel possess a unique ability to heal and have been using this gift to help the people of Crow's Beck for over 100 years. How does their knowledge of each other and their shared abilities aid Altha, Violet, and Kate in times of need? What role does nature play in their healing process, and how does it contribute to their resilience and transformation? I feel like we got so much more of that from Altha. Violet loved nature and felt like this affinity to it, but she never really fully understood what it was. And Kate didn't even really like nature that much. Like, she didn't know what any of this was. She felt like the most like separated from it. And obviously that's because Violet wasn't around to teach her. I feel like this magic requires somebody to like guide you. And we really only saw that with Altha. And that, and like the healing stuff, like I wanted more. Yeah, I agree, Spencer. Kate being so disconnected did make it really hard for me to connect to her as a character, like her not understanding any of it and just kind of stumbling into it. And like, oh, I just got this cottage from an aunt I barely knew, and like, let me just root through her things. And I felt like she was the least important character in the story, but maybe it was just because I didn't like her, but it felt like her storyline took up so much of the story. Like, probably didn't. It just felt like it did. Yes, I agree. Give me a story about Altha and her mother. Give me a story about Elizabeth, because I feel like her mother knew stuff and taught her. She felt like more of a village witch than any of the other characters did. So, like, I wish we could have gotten that story. So, like, I don't know. I definitely want more Altha. I want her entire life history. Like, I want a story just focused on that. I think that would be amazing. Yeah, I love that time period too. Like, give me anything in like the 1600s, 1700s. I want like Salem witch trial-y type stories. So yeah, that was definitely more my vibe. Let's see. Witchcraft is a recurring theme throughout the novel, and it shapes the narrative of all three female protagonists. How is witchcraft portrayed in the novel, and what factors fuel accusations of witchcraft in society? What are the consequences of being labeled a witch, and how do these labels affect the lives of women in the novel? I feel like the only character that really was fully labeled a witch and with reason for was Altha. Like, I don't know. There's stuff about Elizabeth being a witch. We didn't really get to see that. And like, I understand that's why Violet was like so sheltered, was I guess her father trying to like hide her from the witchiness. Like, I don't know. But I feel like there could have been so much more done with this theme, because obviously being a witch in society, it depends too. Like, I think more modern day storylines like Kate's, it's sort of like, ooh, she's a witch, that's interesting. Like, whereas like obviously for Altha, that was really dangerous. And maybe even for Elizabeth and Violet, it could have been seen that way, but I felt like that they didn't go enough into it in the story. I don't know. What do you guys think? How did the witchcraft work for you? Did you find that they went into it enough to make that plot line make sense? I don't know. I'm still like kind of wrestling with my thoughts on this. Yeah, you're right. Like, the writing was beautiful. I'll give her that. Amelia Hart is a fantastic writer. She kept me invested in the story, and I finished it. Like, I can't fault her for her writing. But yeah, I definitely feel like this could have been fleshed out better, so that I could have connected better with Kate, for one, because I feel like that just didn't work at all for me. But yeah. Oh, I definitely agree, Dippy, that I do wish the author could have gone deeper with the witchcraft, because I felt like it was just very surface level. Like, were they really witches? Like, there were elements of that in the story, but it felt like so small in comparison to like everything else. Okay, let's see. What other questions do we want to talk about? Oh, okay. Both Violet and Kate are on a quest to understand their family history and their place in it. How does this knowledge that they acquire about their mothers and their family history affect their sense of identity and self-discovery? In what ways do they view themselves differently after obtaining this knowledge? Okay, now here's my little thing about my thought process here, is that Altha was the best storyline in here because she was the most connected to it. She was raised by a mother who taught her the magic, who kind of led her to fully understand her power. And so she knew herself and she understood what she could do. And she, even though she was still like kind of feeling it out over the course of her story, like, she still like had the power. Whereas the other two who didn't get raised by a mother who understood the power that she was given, like didn't lead them down that path, so that they had to find it on their own. And I think whenever you have to figure things out on your own, it's a little bit harder. And so I understand that. And I understand where the author was coming from with that. That makes sense. But let's see, what do I want to say here? But like finding out that you have the power as you're older and like you're immersed in problems, like where you need to have the power come out, like obviously that's going to look different from Alpha's story. So like, but I liked that like they had to learn more about where they came from, learn more about how this worked. But like, I don't know, like again, I really wanted more from that. Spencer says, it felt like herbal tinctures and maybe some bugs liked them. Yeah, like I can see what the author was trying to do, but yeah, I do wish we could have gotten more. And I wish too, like Nisha says, that it was more of a mother-daughter story than a daughter having to figure it out on her own, kind of stumbling around in the dark. Like I wanted more of like how does this magic work? I wish we could have seen Violet being raised by Elizabeth at least, and like seeing like the powers that she, as she understood them and passed them down. Like, I don't know. There was so much potential here for a really great witchy story. Let's see, what else we want to talk about? Oh, here's a good question. Okay. The themes of various works of literature, including Shakespeare, The Secret Garden, and Grimm's fairy tales, have a profound impact on both Kate and Violet. How do these works shape their perspectives on life and their understanding of their place in the world? Is there a book that you have returned to over the years, and how has your understanding of it changed with each reading? I did like that aspect of the story too, like them having this like important book to reflect on and come back to, like, and it made sense for why Violet was so drawn to The Secret Garden. So I really like that aspect of the story. For me, the first thing that popped in my head was Little Women, because I read that book so many times as a kid. I just loved it, and I wanted to be a March sister, and I just was so drawn to that part of the story. And rereading it as an adult, I definitely connected more with the mother character, and like, I don't know, the story felt very different. I still love it. It just felt like a different story coming into it as an adult. So like, I don't know if that even had anything relevant to do with this, but that was just the first thing that popped in my head when I read that. So yeah, do you have a book that you've read throughout your life, and like how has its meaning changed for you? I've never read Beauty by Robin McKinley. I think I might own it. I don't know. I know I have something by Robin McKinley on my shelves, but I don't know what. Is that a Beauty and the Beast retelling? Oh, I'm gonna have to look for that. I might own it. Now I need to look and see if it's on my shelves. Ooh, Misery. That's a good one. Oh, if I went that direction, it would be It. Which again, I feel like another story that had so many layers that I hit different layers of it in each reread. So like I love when a book does that. When you can read a book and get something new out of it every time. Gerald's Game is a dark one. You read that when you were young? I didn't read Gerald's Game until I was an adult. Ooh, you read that when you were 9? I think I didn't come to Stephen King until I was like 11 or 12, but that's a dark one to read at 9, I have to say. No one was looking at what I was reading either. I used to get into my aunt's like really smutty romances when I was a kid. She had them in a box in her closet, and I would just like stumble. I'm like, oh, look, a box of books. And I read some stuff when I was young. I think I was in my 20s. Might have been my 20s when I read Gerald's Game the first time. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's a good question. All right. The male characters in the novel, including Simon, Rupert, Frederick, and John Milburn, struggle with the concept of female empowerment and often seek to establish dominance over the women in their lives. In contrast, characters like Graham, Henry, and Adam Bainbridge exhibit different attitudes toward women and gender dynamics. What do these contrasting attitudes toward women reveal about societal attitudes towards gender and power? Again, this is back to what I was talking about earlier with like having balance in the story. Like, I really appreciate if you're going to write a story like this, that you have a lot of different range in characters, and it's not all the same thing. So I really appreciated seeing that there was different like attitudes from different male characters. So I don't even remember some of these. John Milburn, was that Grace's husband? But yeah, I really like seeing the different attitudes, seeing that like there were a variety of perspectives, and that like that I appreciated that. I wasn't Graham her Violet's brother, who I could never figure out how old he was. I think he was younger than her, right? Because he was her younger brother? Maybe? I don't know. I could never quite picture how old he was, though. But I did really like him being the, like, caring brother. Like, I feel like that was important to the story. Was it younger by 2 years? I somehow missed that. And I kept trying to figure out, is he the older brother or the younger brother? And I think it wasn't until she said something about how he thought he killed their mother in childbirth. And I was like, oh, younger brother. So yeah, I struggled with that the whole story, trying to figure out how old he was. But I really liked Graham and how much he supported Violet. So I was glad we had characters like that, and it wasn't just all the men were awful. So I really appreciated that. Let's see. Now, I think a thing that a lot of people didn't like about this book, after I was reading reviews and stuff, was all of the stuff about pregnancy and miscarriage and that sort of thing, abortion, all of that. And it was pretty graphic, I will say. Like, there was some pretty graphic moments in the story, which I didn't mind it. It didn't bother me, but I can see how that can be really, really triggering for people. So, like, I'm not one of those that, like, every book should have trigger warnings, but I kind of feel like this book should have had some trigger warnings because some of that was very intense. And, but that was like a big element of the story, I think, was the stuff about the pregnancies and the abortions, or whether they were going to keep a baby or not. Like, Kate choosing to keep her baby felt weird to me at first because I couldn't understand why she would want to tie herself to this abusive husband. But oh, I agree, Spencer. That it did serve a purpose. So I mean, I can understand why it was in the story, and that all of that made sense. But I do kind of feel like you need a warning sometimes, like for people who maybe have had problems with that. who don't want to read the graphic nature of that kind of thing, I can see that, like, how that could be really triggering. So, but I agree too. Like, I can see why it was there. I understand the purpose of it. It made sense story-wise, but oof. Yeah, I don't like reading stories about abusive men and abusive husbands. Like, I find it really hard to get through. I was glad that while we were reading about it, we weren't seeing it firsthand the whole time, that it was a lot more of her reflecting on it, um, which was still awful, but not as bad as like having to read him physically abusing her, like in this, like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, I do not enjoy reading that. So like, I wish I'd known that that's what this was going to be. I don't know. I didn't know that that was such a big element of the story. But that's on me. I don't know. Is that in the synopsis? Do they talk about that? Because I don't know that they do. And now I'm gonna look and see if that's ever like stated in the synopsis. It does say she has an abusive partner, so. But it almost sounds more like that's not really a major element of the story when you read the synopsis. So I don't know. I didn't know that going in. Would it have changed my wanting to read it? Probably not, because I was so obsessed with this book cover. Like, this is why I wanted to read it. It's so pretty. So overall, I mean, I think if I were to like go in and change my rating, I would probably drop it to a 4 and just leave it at that, because like I didn't hate it. There was a lot about the story that I enjoyed, that I appreciated, that I understood like why the author made the choices that she made. It just, some of it didn't work for me. And that's, to each his own. I get it. But that cover, like, I want to frame it and hang it on my wall. It's so pretty. So I counted this towards my reading challenge. This is my book with fungi on the cover. So I did the thing. This hit so many prompts though for the Build Your Library Reading Challenge. What did you guys, if you're doing the challenge, what did you use this for? How many prompts? Did it hit 8? I don't know. I didn't count. So I knew this is going to be my fungi on the cover. So I counted it for that, but I know this has like insects on the cover. I think that was a prompt. There's plants on the cover. What else? This is something to do. What were all the prompts? I have to look at my journal because I don't even remember. What other prompts did this count towards? Oh, you're right. Ooh. You're right. This would count towards survival. I didn't even think of that. I already had a book for that, but you're right. This would count towards survival. When I think survival stories, I tend to think about, gardens and gardening. Do I have a book for that? Is that one I needed? No, I already had a book for that. I'm almost done. Like I've almost got all my prompts checked off. I have a few left that I'm a little bit stuck on, but I'm going to figure it out. If anyone knows a book about, or not about, but that has the elements of hiking and camping, let me know. I'm not really interested in a memoir necessarily about something like that. And what was I going to say? I've already read Psalm for the Wild Built, which would have had that element. I don't know what to read. I keep hoping that I will stumble upon a book that has hiking and camping in it, because I don't know, that might be the one that really keeps me from completing this. Book of the Unnamed Midwife. I am going to write that down because I don't know what that is, but it might work for me. Okay. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm going to check that out because I am like so determined to finish the reading challenge. It's going to happen. I've never completed it entirely. Ooh, a middle grade, Out of Range. I'm going to write that down. I do have a bunch of middle grade I need to get to, so there's a chance that something I pick up might have it. So I think I might do the civils again this year. So I'm going to be reading all of the things. So I have, I think, 7 prompts left. But I've been in the middle of a big project. So now that I have like basically finished, I have some time and I might make it happen. I can pick up some other things now. Yeah, I don't know why I do it to myself. I come up with prompts and I'm like, oh, that's a cool prompt. And then I'm like, oh, I have to do this now. Good job, me. So yeah, I'm hoping I can get them all done. I think, what do I have left besides the hiking and camping? I still need, let's see, I'm a scientific breakthrough, but I do have a book for that I'm planning on reading. I have Cli-Fi that I haven't gotten to yet, but I'm planning on reading Parable of the Sower. So I'm going to get that. I need an element in the title, and I do have 2 options, neither of which I'm super excited about, but I'm hoping I can come up with something. I don't know. Hiking and camping, obviously. I need nature poetry because I just like haven't had a chance to do anything with poetry. And I have a couple options for that. Sitting outside is the one that I'm a little bit frustrated by because I don't tend to read outside very often because I get too distracted by everything. I'm like squirrel, or ooh, that was a cool bird, or like I can't focus when I'm reading outside. So Goldilocks is a good one for element. I do have that. And see, I don't listen to audiobooks when I go on walks because I'm usually taking a walk with somebody. Like, I don't know. I'm struggling with the reading outside. I was listening to How to Be a Good Creature on audio while I was doing yard work for a while, but I haven't been out to do anything. So I still have a couple chapters of that I need to finish. So maybe that could happen. I don't know. And I still need a natural disaster book, but I do have a couple of options. So like I'm hoping that I can get through all of the prompts before the end of the year. I think I can do it. Oh, Danny, you read this while you were camping. That works for reading outside. That's good. Classic sci-fi. I think I counted A Wrinkle in Time for that. Like, that's classic enough, right? That'll work. Yeah, I have a few things for natural disaster. Like it's like right next to me. I was gonna read this at some point because I never continued the series. If you read Life as We Knew It, this is a sequel, and I know there's like 4 more. I think there's a bunch. There are 3 or 4 more? I don't know, but I think this one takes place in a city, so which made it more intriguing for me because this one is like more quiet, like suburban. This is more like what would that look like in a city, and which I think would be a little more like intense. Although to be fair, this was pretty intense. So yeah, I don't know. I think that might be the one I read for natural disaster. I am so intrigued by Camp Damascus, but I'm like, am I really going to read a Chuck Tingle book? I've never read anything he's written. They're all so goofy sounding and just like not my thing. But Camp Damascus sounds really good, and I'm very tempted. I'm kind of waiting to hear what other people think of it first. But if I read that, that could count towards camping, hiking. I'm still like, I'm waiting for reviews, but like I'm really curious about it because it's definitely not his usual, and that has me intrigued. Okay, we're also going to be reading this all month, Babel by R.F. Kuang. This is another book that I have been highly anticipating. Very excited about picking this up. It's big, but I hear it reads really fast. I do have the audio too, because I feel like this is one that I'm going to need the audio to help me keep pace. Otherwise, I'm going to get bogged down because I know people say it reads fast, but it doesn't look like it reads fast. So I'm hoping I like this. I've heard really good things about it. I've been told it's pronounced Babel, but I can't do that. My brain won't let me. This is Babel. So, like, I think Babel is just the British pronunciation of it, but it's still the same thing. But I'm looking forward to getting to this and discussing it with all of you. I feel like this is going to be a really good book club book. I feel like this is going to give us a lot to talk about. So again, I don't know a ton about this. I know that this is set in 1828. I know that this is like an alternate universe, England, and there's some kind of like magic system that has to do with words, I think, and a lot about colonialism. And it just sounds, I know like the tagline at the bottom says, can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? And that just makes me want to pick this up so much. So I hope everyone has a copy or can find a copy. I think this is available on Scribd. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw the audiobook, but no, I'm not 100% that's where I saw it. It might have been on Audible, but I'm excited. I hope everyone else is excited to read that too. And I will be getting that up in the Discord group later today. So yeah, I mean, I think this is like a new release from last year. So I'm hoping everyone can find a copy. I know sometimes when I pick new releases, it can be hard to find a copy, especially at the library. But yeah, that one should be pretty easy. But ooh, yeah, I mean, I've been dying to read something else by R.F. Kuang after reading The Poppy War. I really should continue the series because I do have the second book in The Poppy War on my Kindle. I just haven't picked it up. I think it's one of those books that I really needed to read it immediately after. Now too much time has passed. I don't know if I can remember what was happening, and I don't really want to reread The Poppy War, but I might have to. But either way, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also hoping to get to Yellowface soon because that book is just like calling out to me. So I just want to read all the things. Why can't I do that? There are just way too many books, and I want to read all of them all at the same time right now. So anyway, thanks so much for coming. It was a great time hanging out with everybody and talking about our thoughts about Wayward. And I will see you guys again next month to talk about Babel. So thanks for coming, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.